honored to have our next guest in. We've not had him in before, and for no particular reason. I feel like I've put him on witness protection. He is Congressman Lloyd Smucker from the 11th Congressional District. Good morning, Congressman. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Gary. Good to be with you.
Well, I saw you at an event the other week, and I said, I wanted to get you on for the longest time, and for whatever reason, you know how you kind of put things off, and of course you have part of your county and in your congressional district. Thank you very much to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court a couple of years ago. But, point is, you represent people here in York County. We wanted to get you on this morning, and I really wanted to talk to you this morning a little bit about, during this kind of crazy election season that we're in right now, as you get around to constituents, and I know you talk to constituents a lot, and one of the things you've been praised for is really being accessible to constituents. What are the things that they're telling you? Because, I hesitate to listen to the political people in Washington telling us that, but someone who's right around the area who has to listen to them, I want to hear what those people have to say. What are the number 1, 2, and 3 things that are on their list right now as we head down the stretch for this election?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I got to tell you, I love representing the district that I represent. I love the people that I represent, including those in York County. Yes, and the districts were changed by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, of course, but I benefited from that by really making some great friends and working with the people in Southern York County, and I love it. But people want to reopen the economy, and want to restore our way of life. People are very, very frustrated here in Pennsylvania, as I certainly am as well, that the economy has been shut down so long, and they believe that we can reopen our businesses, reopen our schools, and do that safely and protect the American people. So that's the number one thing. People are excited to participate in this election. And I heard Scott's comments about the polls, but I think the real number to look at here is the new voter registrations. And in Pennsylvania, we are closing the gap by significant numbers between Democrat and Republican registration numbers. So 4 years ago, we had about a little bit over 900,000 more Democrats registered in the state than Republicans. And, of course, the president won by 44,000 votes, just over 44,000 votes. And now that number has been reduced to about 700,000, about 220,000 net new Republican voters, and again, President winning by only 44. So I don't see any scenario in which that's good for the Democrats in this election. And so I get out through the district and I see the enthusiasm for the president that's higher than it ever was, much higher than 4 years ago at this time. So I feel very, very good about the president winning Pennsylvania, and then I think he wins the country. Pennsylvania's a pivotal state. They know that. The president campaign team knows that. The president knows that. And so we've been seeing the president, the vice president. Yesterday, Melania Trump was here, and so many others. And we're going to continue to see that for the next week.
We're talking with Congressman Lloyd Smucker here this morning. Congressman, before you became an elected representative in the state and then in the Congress, you owned and operated the Smucker Company for about 25 years. You grew the small business. You eventually employed more than 150 people. So you're very aware of what it takes for small business to operate. What's it going to take for small business to recover? I hear in a lot of the advertising, one of the advertisers will create 18 million new jobs and da-da-da-da-da. But for the small business person or the entrepreneur like yourself, are we killing the entrepreneurial spirit here in this country and in this state right now by what we're doing in terms of COVID, where people are not going to want to risk their treasure and their ideas to go out and start again because it could be turned off at a particular moment over a particular emergency that a political type declares? Your thoughts?
Well, absolutely. We're just simply putting businesses out of business by not allowing them to operate. For instance, restaurants still at 25 or 50% capacity. It's not a model that works, and particularly now the restaurants are concerned. Some of them are making up revenue by being out, putting tables outside, but that's not going to work over the winter as it gets colder. And we've known for quite some time, for months, more about this virus, and the shutdown back in March, people literally thought it was going to be for a few weeks, and they supported it because they thought it was necessary at that time to prevent the spike up in the hospitals. And they thought it was going to be short-lived. And we never saw that spike up here in our communities. And so the governor talks about being data-driven. It just simply is not. We know who we need to protect. And it's sad to see. We see people who have poured their lives into these businesses, people who have worked hard at their jobs, maybe had a promotion coming, whatever it may be. And there's still so many people that are hurting from this. And so, we do know the formula that worked to rebuild the greatest economy that we had seen in a long, long time. The tax reform that allowed businesses to compete on a global scale, that put more dollars back in people's pockets worked. The regulatory relief that we had put in place all across the board in so many different areas that pulled back the overreach of the federal government that you were just describing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hurting businesses, hurting our economy, hurting American ingenuity. That worked, and we saw the benefit to every American as a result of that. And so we know the formula that works to rebuild the economy, and that is that's the direction that we're going to go. And I think people understand that the president has experience in that, and they have confidence in the president's handling of the economy, and so I think they're going to choose him again to rebuild the economy.
Let me ask you a question that I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I haven't heard anybody ask it too much, and we just have a minute left in this segment, and then we have one more with you. But do you worry that we are becoming a nation of the never-ending emergency? In other words, we'll always have some emergency going on right now, and thus we'll keep business on pins and needles. Your thought about that? About 50 seconds left in this segment.
Well, that's very concerning, and I know our Republican legislature here in Pennsylvania has attempted to change that, but the governor hasn't signed on, and then the Supreme Court essentially is in the governor's pocket, and so it's scary to see that one individual can affect everybody's life. Every Pennsylvanian is affected by the decisions that the governor is making unilaterally. So yes, it's very concerning that one individual. And the other thing about it is, when you have an emergency declaration like this, the governor should be fully aware that's very unusual and should be working to build consensus with the legislature and with others. And we just have not seen that here. I think it's a terrible abuse of power, and something we're going to have to fix.
And we're with Congressman Lloyd Smucker from the 11th Congressional District. Congressman, one of the things that we heard in 2016 was drain the swamp, and that Donald Trump was elected for that reason. And, of course, the first thing that happened when he went in trying to get rid of Obamacare was the Congress didn't support him. Missed by one vote on doing that. Since then, Congress has paid, particularly the Republicans, have paid a serious price in 2018 for not doing something with Obamacare. And as people came out in exit polls, they said Obamacare was the number one reason. Health care was the number one reason that they voted against Republicans. When you look at Washington and you look at the swamp right now and you look at the outsider kind of attitude the president's had, they fought him for 4 years now. What's your take on that whole battle that's going on, and where does it stand today on the eve of the election coming up on November 3rd?
Well, it is a fight to ensure that the government remains a government by the people, for the people, and of the people. And we've seen over the years the growth of federal government and reaching into our lives in all areas of our lives. And the president, or the people did elect the president because they wanted a disruptor. They wanted someone who wasn't politically correct. They wanted someone who was willing to fight for American people and American jobs, and they got what they voted for. I mean, we had a president here who, not only did we work with him to create a great American economy, but we're bringing jobs back to America. We're building respect around the world, standing up to other countries like China and North Korea. And so he has dramatically changed things. In fact, some of the things that you don't see not legislation, but some of the things that you don't see is how each of the agencies have changed. Every single agency across the government has taken a different approach and is looking for how they can better work for the American people. I hear that when I talk to my constituents all across the district, businesses across the district that have seen a very different attitude from this administration, and so it's going to continue to be a fight. What we're working to do is renew that opportunity to live the American dream. We know and love this country, the greatest country in the face of the earth, and we see the opportunities that it's provided for us, and we want that to be available for our kids and our grandkids.
We're talking with Congressman Lloyd Smucker this morning from the 11th Congressional District. Congressman, there are a lot of people that worry that if Donald Trump is beaten, that the revolution to get rid of the swamp ends and the swamp gets back to business as usual. In terms of no accountability, the president and Congress continue to fight, or the president and Congress continue to really not worry too much about having a sense of urgency on helping the American people. Do you share that kind of sentiment, or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I feel very good about where we stand in this election. I think the president is going to win another 4 years. I think the Senate will retain their Republican majority, and I think we'll pick up some seats in the House, and I think there's even a chance that we win back the majority in the House, which would of course change. We would no longer have Nancy Pelosi as Speaker.
And I've got to interrupt you there for a second, because every poll you see, just about, even on Scott Rasmussen's poll a little bit ago, it has Biden up 7 points right now. So how do you kind of say, the president will stay the president? Your thoughts on that?
Well, I've mentioned voter registration numbers before, and
yes.
I think those are the real numbers to look at. We've gained so much, and I think the president, again, will outperform the polls. He did last time. Polls right now have him ahead of where he was 4 years ago at this time. So I don't know. We'll see. I could be wrong on that. I feel good about where we are, but the fact of the matter is, and you just said this, and I couldn't agree more, no matter what happens in this election, it's still going to be a fight.
Yeah.
We're either going to continue to defend the president and try to advance that agenda, or we're going to be fighting against that very, very radical agenda. So, this won't go away just with this election. This is a fight for the future of the country. There are very, very stark differences in the vision for the future of this country right now, more than we've ever seen before. And it's going to be a fight to advance our principles of limited government and renewing the...
Congressman, great having you on. We're looking forward to having you Wednesday of each month about this time. And thank you for being with us this morning. Continue the good fight there, and we look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Thanks for having me, Gary.
Thank you very much. Congressman Lloyd Smucker with us this morning here on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton.